Well, thank you all for joining us. As you can see, there's a lot of excitement behind me. I want to welcome so many groups that were working so hard in regards to the Equal Rights Amendments, my colleagues in both the House and Senate, people who've worked, given their heart and soul to get the ERA adopted. We have good news. The majority, bipartisan majority of the United States Senate is on record in support of the Equal Rights Amendment and the last steps necessary to get it done. This, of course, was the first vote in the United States Senate on this issue. When I started about a decade ago on trying to get this resolution passed, I had 17 co-sponsors. Today, we have 53 senators who have expressed their support for 52 voting today, and Dianne Feinstein would make 53. So we are making progress. This is not the end.
That's right.
We will never stop until we have equality and the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution. So let me, this debate has really brought out a couple things. First, the American people want the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution. Many think it's already in the Constitution. We need the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution because we still have challenges, systemic challenges in the workplace, in health care, in domestic violence. We need to get the job done. The states have completed their work. They have ratified, 38 states have. It's now up to Congress to complete its job and remove any doubt about the Equal Rights Amendment being part of our Constitution. This has been a struggle, and we're going to get to the finish line, and it's been a great coalition working together to make this a reality. I want to just conclude on this one point, and that is this. When we talk to democracies around the world, and they find out that the United States doesn't have the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution, they're perplexed. This is something we've got to get done. When Congress proposed the Equal Rights Amendment, we had strong bipartisan support in both the House and Senate. When the 38 states ratified the constitutional amendment, we had strong bipartisan support. I was in the Maryland General Assembly at the time. It's time that we complete the job. We had a strong debate last night on the floor of the Senate in favor of the resolution. We had some debate again today. Not one opponent showed up on the floor to debate against the merits of this issue. That tells you something about which side is right on this. So it's time, past time, that we get this done. We're never going to give up until we achieve equality in the Constitution. I want to acknowledge a couple individuals in the Senate that were just critically important. I know Senator Schumer will be here in a few moments. We had the vote today thanks to Senator Schumer and his leadership. Senator Durbin on the Judiciary Committee was incredibly helpful in making sure we had a hearing and we got forward on this. And I must tell you, Senator Murkowski has been a true leader on the Republican side to help us make sure this is bipartisan and we reach out to the type of support we have around the nation. We're going to go down the list. We have a lot of people here who want to talk. I'm going to start with my colleague, Senator Blumenthal, a key member of the Senate Judiciary Committee on this issue.
Bravo! Bravo, Senator Cardin.
Thank you. Big round of applause and thanks to Senator Cardin for his championing this issue over many, many years. Thank you to you, Ben, for all you've done on this issue. You know, the most important people here today are the folks behind us.
That's right. Yay.
You are the ones who will make it happen. You have brought us to the point where we now have a majority of United States senators saying yes to the ERA. The ERA is long overdue. It's way overdue. It is not only an idea whose time has come, it is long past time that we pass the ERA. There is still sex-based discrimination in the United States of America. There is still gender-based violence in our great country. There is still voting discrimination. And of course, reproductive rights are so much at stake. People should know that there is no guarantee of equality without the ERA in our country. And we owe it not just to ourselves, but to future generations. I want to salute Generation Ratify. Generation Ratify. You know, I will tell you, no matter what the obstacles, no matter what the setbacks, Generation Ratify, that generation, your generation, is going to be there, whatever the obstacles. So thank you for being here today. Thanks for all your great work. I am really proud to have stood with you for years, and we will keep fighting. Make no mistake, we will never surrender to gender-based discrimination in the greatest country in the history of the world. Thank you.
Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Okay, very, very good. It is exciting to be here with Generation Ratify, and maybe a few that have been around for a little longer than Generation Ratify. I want to thank Senator Cardin for his incredible leadership on this. Senator Schumer, who made sure this got a vote on the floor today. We're proud that we picked up 2 Republican senators on this bill, with more to come, because this is not the end. This is the beginning of a new generation pushing for their equal rights. And if anyone questioned why we should go forward with this now, well, look at the economics. Women still earning 82 cents for every dollar that a man earns. We have got the Dobbs ruling that was right there in front of our eyes shocked a lot of Generation Ratify, that rights that their moms and their grandmas had were taken away from them. And as we saw from the recent case from Amarillo, Texas, and those 2 judges, Trump-appointed judges in the 5th Circuit, the fight goes on. We have a Justice Department that's fighting for the women of America, but we must have more, and that is to enshrine equal rights into the law with the Equal Rights Amendment. We must get it passed. Thank you.
The person who made this vote possible, the majority leader of the Senate, a great friend, a great supporter of the Equal Rights Amendment, Chuck Schumer.
Thank you. And I just want to say one thing. We lost this vote. We are going to win this fight. And that's why I moved to reconsider, so we can come back and do it again. And people all over the country who voted against this will be told, why did you do that? Why didn't you vote for the equality that America believes in? Why didn't we take that giant step towards greater equality? The amazing leadership of Ben Cardin and Amy Klobuchar and Dick Blumenthal, and most of all of you. And I want to give a particular shout out to Carolyn Maloney, who's worked so hard to make this happen, and all the others who are here. Now, there is no good reason that we bind ourselves to limitations. They were set 50 years ago by politicians who are long gone, to prevent us today from guaranteeing equality for women. And we are going to fight and fight and fight until we win. This is what America is all about. Remember, the Constitution doesn't impose this barrier. And by keeping it in place, we're needlessly obeying skewed rules set by politicians long gone, whose views ought not to rule the day. It is 2023. Women are under assault politically in so many ways, whether it's the right to choose, or women's health care, or discrimination, or so many other things. It's about time America said no to all of that. It's about time America said no to the MAGA majority on the Supreme Court, that we need protections for women. So, we are here today, but we are not sad. We are exultant. We are not here to curse the darkness. We are lighting candles for the future. Because when you fight and you're right, you win. When you fight and you're right, you win. When you fight and you're right, you win. And we will win. Thank you for being here, everybody. Thank you, Ben. Is this mine?
Senator Mazie Hirono, one of the key members of the Judiciary Committee and the champion of the Equal Rights Amendment.
Aloha, everybody. Well, I was listening to Leader Schumer talk about the people who started the ERA many decades ago and how some of them had passed. Well, some of us still haven't passed because I was working in the Hawaii State Legislature when Hawaii became the first state in the nation to ratify the ERA. And 50 years later, the fight continues. And what's really wonderful is, and it gives me great hope, is the young people, they're in high school. And they are here to fight for the ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. And you know what? They are a generation ahead because I didn't start fighting for this until I was in college. So you guys give me such hope. And then I see so many others who are here fighting the battle. And nothing can be as an example of why we need the ERA than the Dobbs decision. Because I agree with the writers and analysts who say that if the ERA had been in our Constitution, even this extreme Supreme Court would have had to think twice before summarily getting rid of a constitutional right that we thought we had for 50 years, that they would have had to regard and assess what an ERA provision would require them to do. And that is just one example of why the Equal Rights Amendment needs to get done. So yes, we took a vote, and we're going to keep on going because it's been 50 years. But one thing about those of us who fight for equal opportunity, equal rights, gender protections, all of that, is that we don't give up, we don't give in. We know it's right, and we're going to keep on going. Thank you very much, everybody.
There are a few other people I wanted to thank because they worked so hard along with Carolyn Maloney. First, of course, Ayanna Pressley, our great leader in the House. And two great New Yorkers, Zakiya Thomas and Alyssa Milano. And Alyssa Milano, she didn't stop. Thank you. Even though you're Angelo's friend, I still love you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
So let me acknowledge every Marylander that's in the group right now. Equal time for Maryland. The leader in the House of Representatives on this resolution done an incredible job in getting the type of support that we have, unity, particularly among the Democratic caucus, is Representative Pressley. We thank her for her leadership. Let's hear from you.
Thank you, Senator. You know, having been an aide before I was an elected official for some 16 years, you know, very often our aides write these incredible talking points for us, and then as members we get up here and just ad-lib. I'm going to do a mix because I am a little emotional. I understand Leader Schumer very much in what he said, that we are not going to curse the darkness, but I want to talk about what it felt like to be in the Senate chamber today. Myself, Congresswoman Cori Bush, who is founding co-chair of the ERA caucus in the House, the first in the history of the House. We led a House delegation of our colleagues to sit in the Senate chamber today when the vote took place. It was very demoralizing to learn that there were colleagues who did not even deem this issue worthy of debate. It was incredibly hurtful to see those colleagues come in to vote today and defiantly put their thumb down as if they were not birthed by women and don't have women in their own families or daughters that they are raising. I wish that I could say I'm disappointed. But in order to be disappointed, I would have to be surprised. It is simply another day in this place, another day of obstruction of justice, of the undermining of democracy, of demoralizing and dangerous attacks against women. And yet, despite it all, we ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Because the women of this country, sadly, are battle tested. We're battle tested because we have had to sojourn on. We have taken care of our families, our communities, this democracy, in the midst of and in the residual aftermath of policy violence. I would venture to guess that you have grown tired and weary of our statistics of all the disparate treatment that women experience in this country. Imagine how tired we are of living them. But I am emboldened in this moment and grateful for the partnership and leadership of Senator Cardin, Majority Leader Schumer, Congresswoman Bush, our Senate colleagues and advocates. And I also want to give a shout out to Congresswoman Maloney and Congresswoman Spear, because they were very intentional as they passed the baton in this fight to two black women. And those two black women are leading and centering those who have historically had our contributions erased from history and who are not reflected in the founding document of this country. So this is a movement now being led by and centering the most marginalized who are in the greatest need of these protections and rights. It's been over 100 years now. Some might think that's a testament to our resilience. I think it's a pathetic commentary. For 100 years now, a broad, diverse, multiracial, intergenerational of justice seekers, table shakers, and movement builders have been organizing relentlessly to enshrine gender equality into the highest law of the land. We've done so because for too long, our Constitution has failed to recognize the dignity, humanity, and equality of women, LGBTQ folks, and other marginalized people. That's why I'm so proud to join Senator Cardin and our colleagues in introducing a joint resolution to remove the arbitrary deadline imposed by Congress on ratification of the ERA. Our bill would enshrine the ERA as the 28th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States of America at a time when we face daily sexism, pregnancy discrimination, pay inequities, sexual violence, and persistent legislated attacks on our bodily autonomy. Our bill is essential. But once again, the Jim Crow era rules of the United States Senate are obstructing justice and LGBTQ folks and other marginalized communities. Today, the extraction of the ERA by some callous Senate Republicans is only the latest example of their damning failure to do the bare minimum to protect our fundamental rights at defining moments in our nation's history. The Senate's failure to pass our bill means that constitutional inequality and the daily indignities and disparities that come with it will remain the status quo for now. We ain't gonna let nobody turn us around. Despite this devastating setback, we remain resolved and determined, as Shirley Chisholm, the first black woman elected to Congress and a key strategist in the fight to pass the ERA, once said, "It is time to sweep away these relics of the past and set further generations free of them." Her words were true 50 years ago, and they remain true today. On days like this, I can't help but to think of our 14-year-old daughter, Cora. She asked me why at every rally and march we chant, "When we fight, we win." I told her, "Baby girl, because it's the truth. I will not be made a liar to my kid. When we fight, we win." And I do not want my daughter or any daughter to continue to live in a country where we have normalized and internalize the disparate treatment of women and LGBTQ folks and the disparities that follow. This fight isn't over. I am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with this coalition. And now I would like to introduce my colleague, my sister in service in the work of justice, and co-chair of the historic Congressional ERA Caucus, Congresswoman Cori Bush.
Thank you, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you to the Senators Cardin and Murkowski, and to the ERA Coalition. Gotta talk about the coalition. Thank you all for convening this press conference. Thank you to my colleagues who are here, to all the advocates. Generation Ratify, raise your hands. And to Majority Leader Schumer, who said, I forgot your name. I forgot to say your name. To Schumer on your historic leadership today. And fellow co-chair, Congresswoman Pressley, for your consistent leadership, for your partnership in launching the first ever congressional caucus for the Equal Rights Amendment. And let me also make a special mention, one of my former chairwoman, Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, for your fearless how you champion the ERA through the years. So we are here today, we're united. We're continuing to lead and to demand exactly what is owed to all of us. What is owed is equality. We owe it to those who came before us in this fight, particularly the Black and brown women who have always been on the forefront of this fight, yet are seldom recognized. We owe it to every person in every community in this country who have been denied, who've been excluded or erased by the Constitution that we are all expected to abide by. Equality is overdue. But not all senators agree. Many who are not Dems voted against the ERA today. By voting against the Equal Rights Amendment, they are saying they don't care about reducing the alarming rates of violence against women. Shut up and take it. By voting against the Equal Rights Amendment, they're saying they don't care about protecting our transgender siblings and neighbors. They're saying, shut up and hide who you are. By voting against the Equal Rights Amendment, they are saying they don't care about our right to access an abortion. Shut up and let the state control your body. Those in the Senate who voted against the ERA, they don't care about us. They don't care because for them, they often are the benefactors of inequality. Facts. Take the example of the gender pay gap. As members of Congress, we are guaranteed equal pay for equal work, a luxury that is not afforded to over 50% of the people in this country. Many of our constituents experience what I call the sexism tax. That is money that should be in their pockets, but it is not, because we don't have equality under the Constitution. Equality is overdue. We want in on the Constitution. We want in on the promise of being equal and recognized, being created and recognized as equals in our own country. This is our country. And we demand equal citizenship. We demand equal standing under the law. Yes. ERA now. Thank you. And now,
I'll bring up Sakia.
Oh, you bring, okay.
I want to bring up Sakia Thomas because the ERA coalition was absolutely essential for us reaching this moment. There's so many outside groups that put their whole effort in this, and we are so appreciative we're here today because of them. So thank you very much for your leadership on this issue.
Thank you so much.
Well, first, I want to thank Leader Schumer for bringing this resolution to a vote and for standing with us as an ally and a champion of equality by entering the motion to reconsider this resolution later in the session. So thank you, Senator Schumer. And thank you for your leadership, co-sponsor Senator Cardin and Senator Murkowski. We would not be here without them. And make no mistake, here is the closest we've ever been to seeing full equality recognized in the Equal Rights Amendment in the Constitution. After 100 years of fighting for recognition and publication of the ERA, today is a remarkable day making progress towards full equality, but we are no means down or out, and neither is the ERA. What we saw today was a bipartisan majority of senators going on the record affirming the Equal Rights Amendment as valid and removing the arbitrary time limit, reflecting the will of a vast majority of the American public. Nearly 80% of Americans want to see the ERA in the Constitution, but still a minority of senators are using this arcane Senate debate rules to try to stop progress instead of going on the record to say what they really mean. They're against sex equality. Let's be clear. The Equal Rights Amendment didn't fall short today. Democracy did. Women, girls, and LGBTQ plus people are not a technicality, and technicality should not be used to hold us back or try to keep us down. These opponents are hiding behind procedural excuses because they know that if the ERA came to the Senate floor for a full vote, equality would win, and equality should always win. That should be the default for this country, but sadly, it isn't. The courts have kicked the issue back to Congress. President Biden has called on Congress to take action, and Congress has the power to act. Because we deserve to have our rights protected and equality preserved in the Constitution so that we, our children, and our children's children will have a brighter future. We've waited far long enough. Thank you.
I now want to call on former Representative Carolyn Maloney. She got the job done in the House of Representatives and has been an incredible leader on this issue.
Thank you, Senator Cardin, and thank all the senators for making this wonderful day an even more wonderful day with a majority of the United States Senate voting for equality for women. Earlier this week, I was at Hunter College, and the majority leader, Chuck Schumer, announced that he was going to have a vote on Thursday. And in a New York minute, he produced that vote. We had that vote today, and we're going to build on it. It's a foundation. We know who's for us, who's against us, and we need to hold those who are not for equality accountable. That's right. That same day, Hunter College students announced a national student-led petition drive for the ERA. And already they have gained over 7,000 signatures. Let's build on that. Let's build on that. Everybody take out your phones and go for sign4era.org now. And let's show these senators that the polls that are out there, that 80% of the American people support equality of all of our people, including women. Sign and show the reality of your vote and your support. We have a Supreme Court that is not listening to the American people. This student-led petition will be a deafening roar of where the American people stand. So please take out your phones and sign. I want a very special thank you to Senator Schumer for listening to the advocates. We asked him to vote with the prevailing side so that we can bring it back to the floor again and again and again to register where the people are in this country. And we will have a petition that will show the reality of the 80% of the people that in polls say they support equality. So we are failing towards victory. Support the ERA, sign the petition. Let's help our senators and our leaders in the House of Representatives. I've got to give a very special thank you to Ayanna Pressley and Cori Bush. They were always fighters in the House, but they are really coming to the forefront, and soon they'll have a majority of votes in the House of Representatives. And to all of our senators who stood with us on the vote today on the floor, and especially Senator Murkowski, who made it a bipartisan effort. Thank you, Senator Murkowski. Thank you.
We're joined by Elisa Milano, a great activist on behalf of the DRA and part of the coalition.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to start by thanking Senator Cardin for his leadership on this. Senator Schumer, which, I mean, a round of applause for listening to the advocates, for his procedural no vote, which enables us to bring the ERA resolution to the floor again in this session, which is incredible. Generation Ratified, the ERA Coalition, all of the advocates and activists who do the hard work who come here every single day. I share my microphone with you. I share my heart with you. Take a moment to just breathe in what happened today, because it is because of you, and it is incredibly special. So thank you. Also to Senator Murkowski for making this a bipartisan effort, and for Senator Collins. I'd like to thank Senator Collins for also voting yes. Also, I'd like to thank President Biden, who sent over a letter today saying the administration strongly supports Senate passage of SJ Res 4, a joint resolution that would declare the Equal Rights Amendment to be valid to all intents and purposes as part of the Constitution. Yes. Very important. And I just want to say, you know, as someone who believes in this country and believes in democracy, when votes happen in Congress, you know, hundreds or sometimes thousands of miles away from where most of us live, it can feel really distant and impersonal. And that's not how I see this vote. And it's not how I hope that every American woman sees this vote. Because when anti-woman Republicans say that we don't belong in the Constitution, it's personal. It's personal that I don't have the same rights and protections as the men who sexually assaulted me. It's personal that those same men can access the full spectrum of reproductive health care in their doctor's office. But Republicans in Congress say that I, as a woman, cannot. It's personal when judges approve by anti-women Republicans make rulings banning medication that only women take. Rulings which will be unconstitutional the second the ERA becomes the law of the land. It's personal when a woman in Texas has to be on death's door due to an infection caused by a non-viable pregnancy before she can receive life-saving health care. It is personal for a child who is raped when she is forced by her government to leave the state just to receive medical care. Women will die because of what Republicans are trying to do, and you better believe that I take that personally. But there is so much good news today, and the foundation of this good news is that we can do something about it. The only time women are specifically mentioned in the Constitution is the 19th Amendment, where we were finally granted the right to vote. We're going to use that right to kick every Republican who votes against us out of office. And I hope that they take it personally when they lose their jobs, because that's how we'll mean it.
Yes. That's right. Yes.
There are more women than men in this country. We are the largest voting bloc in the United States. We are not going to sit down. We are not going to shut up. We will not go away. ERA now. Thank you. Oh, and now Claudia Nachega from Generation Ratify, the National Policy Director.
Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Nachega, and I'm a high school senior from Maryland. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Generation Ratify, a movement of over 13,000 young people organizing for the publication of the Equal Rights Amendment. I want to thank Senator Cardin, Senator Murkowski, and Senator Schumer, who brought SJ Res 4 to a vote today. I also want to thank the ERA advocates whose tireless organizing led to today's historic vote. More specifically, I want to thank the young people who have lobbied their legislators, lobbied and protested in the streets, including outside of the Hart Senate building where we shut down Constitution Avenue, and have done the work in their communities to advance an abortion-forward, queer-inclusive ERA that centers racial justice. This moment is because of us. Young women and queer people demand our Constitution includes us and recognizes us as equals. We demand our Constitution prohibit discrimination on the basis of sex, and we demand the elimination of the filibuster so the minority of the Senate cannot block the equality of the majority of Americans.
Come on.
Our right to abortion and contraception is on the line. Our right to learn about queer identities and access gender-affirming health care is on the line. Our right to be safe from sexual violence and receive an equal education is on the line. The majority of young people, like the majority of our Senate, support the Equal Rights Amendment. To the senators who voted against equality, the rights, the futures, and the lives of young people, the youth are watching. We won't stop showing up for equality, we won't stop fighting for our equality, and we won't stop voting for our equality. With the launch of the first ever congressional ERA caucus, we know your colleagues won't either, and we have their backs every step of the way. Thank you.
Well done.
Just so y'all know, you'll be voting for her one day. If she deems us worthy enough to vote.
Absolutely. We have the CEO of the League of Women Voters, Virginia K. Solomon.
Thank you, Senator. How's everyone doing today? First of all, I want to thank all of the senators and our congressional leaders who have brought us to where we are now. Today was a disappointment, but we are not going to stop. And I think one of the things we need to remind ourselves is that the ERA is not just about women. The ERA is about a healthy democracy. We cannot have a healthy democracy if everybody is not treated equally in this country. And one of the things I want to say to those who do not support the ERA, we are here to remind you that we will not forget what you have denied us of once again. Equal rights, regardless of sex, regardless of. Women are the backbone of America, and it is a disgrace that in 2023, women are still legally considered second-class citizens in the United States of America. Imagine that. 103 years after the 19th Amendment was passed. Just a mere 50 years after the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. Yet still, women are left behind. Despite decades of progress, women continue to battle systemic discrimination in the form of unequal pay, workplace harassment, and the right to make our own reproductive choices privately and free from government interference. It is time to play even the playing field, and that's what the Equal Rights Amendment does. Women cannot afford to wait any longer. And today, for all the women who are out there thinking, what's next? I want to remind you that while we might be disappointed by today's vote, while we might not have equal rights today, we have a superpower. Women are powerful, dynamic beings, and we are the largest voting bloc in this country. We have the power to choose our elected leaders. They don't choose us, we choose them. And so what we need to do is make sure that every single person who chose not to support us, that we choose for them not to have a job in November 2024. I would say, like in the Game of Thrones, winter is coming. I want to thank everybody here today. I want to thank all of the leaders and all the champions in Congress and in the Senate and all of our fellow movement leaders for this today. Thank you all.
Well, let me thank all of my colleagues that are here, and those that have spoken, those that have not. Make no mistake about it. We will not rest until we get the Equal Rights Amendment into the Constitution. We're proud that we showed a bipartisan majority today of senators that support that. We're going to work to get the necessary votes to make this a reality. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you.